Okay, I know some of you have been waiting for this. Thank you so much for your patience. I really appreciate it. Life just has a tendency to get in the way. So I'm going to show you a walkthrough of what this project is. And it goes on your left top panel. So here's what it looks like open, but when you close it, you've got this whole packet of stuff. So this has a magnet closure, and you open it up and there's a page here where you can do some journaling, and here's a couple of, cards that go into this little pocket here. Then we have a little Glassine folder here. Those are fun to do. You can tuck little things in there. Well, probably not that fat, but you got a place to tuck stuff. And then here we have a little, I've used a little hole reinforcement, and this flap opens up and you've got a little corner pocket here, and you've actually got two pockets. You've got one here and one here. So pocket here, and I've just stuck this little, this is actually from the Elements page, and then this just ties closed. So I've taken it and wrapped it around 1.5 times, and we just basically tie it closed. Cute. And then we've got this little pocket over here. It's just a slider pocket that you can slide things in and out of, and I've got a cabinet card from the Elements page in there. And I think that takes care of that. And then over here, this is, I'm not sure if we're going to do anything with this page or not, because this packet has gotten very thick. So this might just be something I leave to you to embellish. This is another Glassine pocket here, and this is a photo mat. So you can put your photo here, and it just slides in here. You can also tuck other little bits of ephemera into this pocket. And then over here we've got a little lace tuck. I don't have any cards in this right now, but you can tuck things in there like that. There's a belly band here where you can also tuck things here like that. So that being said, this is our project, and that is what I'm going to show you how to assemble right now. So let's get started. I'll start with my usual guidelines, in that on some of these pages you're going to see something that looks like these little tick marks, which is, they are intended to help you line your ruler up or your scoreboard up so that you can score these without needing a dotted line or a solid line, and it just keeps your work nice and clean. I recommend that before you cut anything out, you go through and make all of your scores using those guides, because obviously once you cut this out, your score marks are going to be gone, and it'll be a little more challenging, although you could do it if you wanted to. Otherwise, yeah, I'm all into score first, cut second, and once you have all your elements cut out, we will get started putting this together. I've given you an element that looks like this, and basically what these are hole reinforcements. So before I cut them out, I'm going to poke the hole in the middle of them first. So I just trimmed this down far enough so that I could get my hole punch in there. And this is 1/8 of an inch hole punch. And I may not even need all of these circles, but I'm going to go ahead and do this anyway. Because you never know, you know, I might have a project that somewhere down the line I can go ahead and use these for. I've also got this circle punch, and I'm not even really sure what size this circle punch is. It looks like might be somewhere near 5/8, but I don't think it's exact. So what I can do is just line my circle punch up, and I think it might be a little larger than what these circles are, and this is kind of a tough one to do without like doing this kind of thing. There we go. And then that way I get a perfect circle and I don't have to cut around it or really ink the edges if I don't want to. And that works for me, but feel free to use whatever method you like. If you have a bigger hole punch, you can actually make these a little bit bigger, but it's up to you. You're going to notice that you've gotten an element that looks like this, which I call a pocket reinforcement. And it's going to have a white line going across the top. Do not worry about trying to cut that out, because what we're going to do is, you can see there's a little guide mark on this piece, and we're going to glue it right over that guideline. So if you want to go ahead and grab these two pieces and follow along with me, that is what we are going to do. You can either use a liquid adhesive or a dry adhesive. I think I'm going to use my dry adhesive. And I have to shave off just a little of this. Okay, so once you've got your adhesive on there, I'm just going to take off my backing. And I can adhere this down right on that little guide. Like that. And then burnish it down really well. And then where the two little circles are, I'm just going to take 1/8 of an inch hole punch and punch over those. So then I have something that looks like this. You can see those two little holes there. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to line up my ruler kind of along that line. You can make it a little bit wider if you want. I think I'm going to stay as close to that as I can, because I've already tried widening it and I didn't really like the look. I mean, you can always shave more off, but you can't really put it back on. So you might have to make a couple of passes, because you're cutting through your, if you're using a dry adhesive, cutting through that dry adhesive plus the two pieces of cardstock. And basically you just want to make a slice wide enough so that you can get something up underneath there, because it is going to be a pocket. All right, let's see what that does for me. I like that a lot better. Okay. So now maybe I could put this up against something so you can see it better. So now you can see that I've got a little opening for a card or something, and actually the card I'm going to be putting in there is this. So that's going to work fine. This project hinges on a bunch of things happening in succession because we have a magnetic closure. So the first thing we want to put together is this pocket. So you're going to want to grab this long piece that has a flap on it, this ticket thing. Maybe I should zoom this out a little bit. It looks like it says contract ticket on it. There are a couple of pockets. They kind of go like this. So you have two pockets and a flap, but we'll go ahead and put these together. The first thing I want to do with this is I'm going to put a hole reinforcement because I want to do a tie closure, and I've already discovered, and I knew this was going to happen, that this is a lot harder to do after it's put together. I mean, I've got some eyelet setters that will work on something that's on a pocket that's already put together, but it's just easier this way. So I'm just going to draw the hole so I know where to punch my hole. I've already got my hole reinforcement put together, and I showed you how I did that. And what I did was I put a couple of these, I glued a couple of them together just to kind of give it a little strength and rigidity. So I'm going to take my same 1/8 inch hole punch and punch where I drew that little circle. That, and then this will line up, and I can put an eyelet in there and set it. One of the things I have is this little granite block that says pound it all. So I have this little hammer. Granted, this is kind of an old-fashioned way of doing this because there's plenty of eyelet setters out there making memories, memory keepers, something like that has an eyelet setter, which I do have. So, it doesn't really want to go in there. There we go. Okay. There. Voila, that looks great. Okay, I'm going to build this pocket a little bit. So this pocket is something I've called the long pocket. So it will get adhered down to the top like this to make a double pocket on this thing. go. So we got one pocket on there. Varnish this a little bit. And then I'm going to put my bottom pocket on. And how I think I will do this is, I think I'm going to glue that bottom flap like that and have it fold up. Take my backing off. Fold those over and adhere them down. That's going to be really cute. All right. I think I kind of like to use liquid adhesive when I'm gluing print to print because I haven't found the dry adhesive likes to stick on print necessarily. And then just flip it up. And at least with the liquid adhesive, it's a little bit more forgiving. I have a little more time to kind of finagle this. Make sure that it's not sticking to the inside and that I can actually get something to tuck in there. Okay, so now you've got your two little pockets in there. And then this, I am a big fan of the rounded corner. So I'm just going to go ahead and round the top. I just like it. And then this flap folds like that. And it's going to get adhered to the top like this. Before I do that though, I want to ink around the edge of this because I'm going to be putting this on there and there is going to be a little bit of a border. So I just want to ink it a little bit, and I'm using vintage photo. So I'll just go around the edge. So there's that. Then the last thing I've got, which you can choose or choose not to use, is this tab. One side says journal, which that's the side that I kind of like to put over this, the inside of this, because it looks a little bit like a journal page. So it's going to look like that. So I think what I'll do is just get my liquid adhesive and slap that puppy on there. I am using Fabri-Tac glue. It dries very, very quickly. It's kind of like in the rubber cement realm, and it's kind of nice because you can actually get it to like rub off your surfaces. Then I can stick it on my piece. Over. Oops, down a little too low. And that's on, and if you've got some like little halos or whatever, you can either trim them off or ink them a little bit. I think I'll just ink it. It's not supposed to look perfect. You know, it's an old journal type thing. Okay, now what I want to do, if you want to go ahead and grab this flap thing, should fold like this. And then this pocket gets glued to that tab, because what it does when you put this, it's actually going to get adhered inside here, but in order to cover that, I used this to kind of give it a seamlessness. Just want to get this lined up as closely as possible. That looks pretty good. Okay. I have this piece of twine, and it's about 52 inches long, and I've doubled it over. I'm going to double it over because I want to use it as a tie for our little, it'll be a tie closure for this thing down here. So I think this ties okay, at least for my use, but if you need something a little bit longer, then I might go with 1.5 yards. This isn't quite 1.5 yards. It's just a couple inches shy of it, but I'm noticing that, you know, if you want something a little bit longer, then I would go with a full 1.5 yards. And I'm having to untie this because it seems just a little looser than I want it. I mean, I don't want it too tight that it starts like bowing or anything, but I do kind of want it a little taut. So I am able to get a hold of these enough that it ties okay, but it just kind of makes for a nice little closure. And the length also is going to be determined by how many times you want it to wrap around this little element too. I think I wrapped it around twice, or maybe I came around and down, so 1.5 times, so that it ties just below the element. because it's not quite long enough to go all the way to the top, but this works fine. So makes a nice little closure. It's rustic looking and I like the look of it. What else can I say about that? So we could run a strip of adhesive up the back just to kind of hold this in place for now, or I could just keep it tied because this is going to get glued into my book, so I don't really have to do too much with it right now. I mean, it is the way I want it to be at this point, so you can choose to hold that in place if you want or not. So the next thing we have is this thing, which when this gets glued into our book like this page is going to come over and this is going to flip up. In fact, I'll just do it right now. Fold it. It's got a little 1/8 of an inch spine to it to accommodate the thickness of this book. And this is also going to get, it'll get glued to the back of this. So you can see what I mean by everything had to kind of be done in a certain order. And then when this closes, it'll magnetize here, but we need to put the magnet actually on this piece too. But I do have some little pieces that go over that closure. So I've got that. And this. So then you can choose, I like to put this on the outside, and I think I had this one on the inside. Like that. So what I'm going to do is, I know I want a magnet inside here, so before I get wild and crazy and adhere this in place, I do want to put my magnet there first. I'm using these little tiny, they're very small, but they are highly magnetic. You can see how small that is. They're very thin, maybe like a 1/16 of an inch thick. But I just kind of want to center that, maybe right about there, because this it does have a little border to it, and I want to make sure that it's underneath there enough that it's not going to be on the edge of this. So that looks actually pretty good. It's not quite in the middle, it's a little off to the right, but I think that's okay. Just want to make sure that, which I think it will. Yeah, so if it's like right here, that's perfect. So I'm just going to take a little bit of my dry adhesive and I'm just gonna, I guess I'll just stick it to it like that. What the bow? Oh, my scissors are sticking to it because it's magnetic. Okay. I'll just carefully get that backing off. All right. Oh, sticks to my blade too. Imagine that. I'm just going to put it here. That looks pretty good, pretty centered. Let's see what it looks like there. Huh? I think that'll work fine. Okay. Maybe push it down just a skoshie bit more. There. Okay. And then I can adhere this on, and I guess the question is, do I want to use wet or dry? Maybe I just want to use wet. And just kind of center that as best I can. Hold it for a minute so that edge adheres like I want it to. Might have to hold it in place for a minute because the magnet will try to push this up. I'll just wait for it to dry a little bit. So that worked pretty well. I went ahead and inked the edges a little bit. And I'll just go ahead and put this other side on too. I like to make sure that I get the edges when I'm using the adhesive, the wet adhesive. That's my only beef about liquid adhesives is sometimes it's harder to get the edges, and those are the places I most want down. Okay. So that looks pretty good. And if you want, go ahead and ink the edges here too, just to give it a little cohesiveness. I like to give the edges of my elements a grungy look anyway. Because maybe you don't have ink, I don't know. Could use paint, watercolor, something. Anyway, that looks pretty good. And now we're ready to adhere this flap to our folder. And I like to go like right about the middle, and if it helps to visualize by closing this, you know, you can kind of slide it around a little, see what you like. It's going to look like that, mostly. Center this as best I can. It's okay if it's not exactly dead center. You know, I'm pretty good at eyeballing this, and even if it isn't, you know, you can move it up whatever you like. Good enough for me. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and adhere these mats into place. I'll go ahead and use my liquid adhesive for that. And don't forget it has a little bit of a border around the outside, so center it on your page as best you can. Liquid adhesive is a little forgiving. That looks pretty good to me. Yeah, that goes like that because we're going to put a pocket over this. And then I'll go ahead and this one on too. And this one doesn't really have a top or bottom, so it doesn't really matter which way you put it. And then I think I'm just gonna ink the edges a little bit. I like that cohesiveness. You know, it just kind of adds another dimension. And makes your piece look like it's part of the book. It doesn't have to be a lot. I think that looks pretty good.